Good evening. Good evening. Okay, so start na tayo. So our topic for tonight will be about determinants. Let me get a pen. So a determinant is a scalar or a number associated with a square matrix. Now, a determinant of order n is written as, okay, we denote determinant as this letter D equal to an array consisting of elements arranged in rows and columns and enclosed by a bar. So basically, we'll be dealing with or associated by a square matrix. Now it has n squared elements arranged in n rows and n columns. We know that the square matrix is a type of matrix wherein the number of rows is equal to the number of columns. Okay, so this is the principal diagonal or the main diagonal. And the elements in the principal diagonal are A11, A22, yan, basta nasa main diagonal. Since ito ay a square matrix. Now, tandaan na determinant is a number or a scalar value. Now, let's go to finding the determinants of order 2 and 3. Move ko lang to. Okay, so first, yan, a determinant D of order 2. Suppose nabing order 2, there are 2 rows and 2 columns since there will be dealing with square matrix then. Here, para ma-determine natin yung scalar value na to. So from the upper left and using the principal diagonal going down, we are going to multiply these elements and then subtract it. So basically, ito yung sign positive. Subtract it by the product of these elements. Ano lang yung sign natin. So that is A sub 1 times B sub 2 minus the product and A sub 2 times B sub 1. So this is how we determine yung value ni determinant of order 2. So for example, evaluate D equals, and bar yung natin na pag sinabing bar. So we are to determine that scalar value. So 3, 4, 1, 2 yung array of elements natin. So this will be applying this idea here. So 3 times 2 minus 1 times 4. So 3 times 2 is 6. 6 minus 4 is positive 2. So this is now the value of our determinant. Okay, proceed tayo sa next. Ayan, so how about if it contains variables? So here, you are asked to find the values of t, and which satisfy the equation. So in this case, on the left side of the equation, you have a matrix, or you are to determine or to write the determinant of this equated to 0. So the same idea, since 2 by 2 ito. So from the upper left to the lower right, you multiply these functions. So t minus 1 times t minus 2. Let me clear that one. Ayan, t minus 1 times t minus 2, yun yung first term natin, minus the product of this one. So 3 times 2 is 6. I'm multiplying these functions. So we have t squared. And so negative t minus 2t, you have negative 3t. Negative 1 times negative 2 is positive 2. Here you have 3 times 2 is 6. So simplifying now, we have t squared minus 3t minus 4 equal to 0. And then you factor this. So t minus 4, ayan, check natin, times t plus 1. So these are the factors of this quadratic or this polynomial. So since naka-equate na sa 0, so t minus 4 is equal to 0, and t plus 1 is equal to 0. Now, transpose to the right side, you have t is equal to positive 4 and t is equal to negative 1. Now, these are the values of t. Okay, so yan. Ginamit natin yung determinant to actually determine the value of t. Move tayo sa next. Okay, number 2, a determinant d of order 3. So here, order 3 naman. So dealing with a 3 by 3 na matrix, or yung array dun sa loob ng mismong bar na to is a 3 by 3 na matrix. Okay, so how do we determine? So the same idea lang din. So start ka with the elements na nasa main diagonal. Ayan, or principal diagonal. So the product of this, so a sub 1 times b sub 2 times c sub 3, ito yung first term natin. So pagpababa, ganun lang yung plus lang yung sign natin. So the element here, b sub 1 times c sub 2. Saan yung third niya? Ito yun, times c sub 3. So ganun yun. Ito yung second term natin. And then for the third term, you have a sub 2 times b sub 3 and times c sub 1. Yan, para hindi kayo malito, so pwede niyong gawin to. Yan, idagdag natin yung first two columns. Okay, the value may also obtain by rewriting the first two columns as shown below. Ito. So this is the given determinant natin or matrix. So yung first two columns, we copy this and then write it in here. So basically, ito yung first term natin. Positive lang tong sign na to. So product of these elements, a sub 1, b sub 2 times c sub 3. Okay, compare natin pareho. And then proceed lang natin basta pababa to the lower right. And plus lang yung sign. So b sub 1 times c sub 2 times a sub 3. B sub 1, yeah, tama. Check. And then lastly, you have ito. C sub 1 times a sub 2 times b sub 3. Ito na yun. So pagpataas naman, ibahin natin yung color. So this part here. So a sub 3 times b sub 2 times c sub 1. Negative yan. And this is that term. And then b sub 3 times c sub 2 times a sub 1. Yan, negative din yung sign natin. And then lastly, c sub 3 times a sub 2 times b sub 1. Okay, minus. So this is the last term. Ayan. Evaluate na lang natin. So that is how you evaluate the determinant of order 3. Okay, let's go to an example. Okay. So the above methods of evaluating determinants of order 2 and 3, however, are insufficient for higher order determinants. That's why it is convenient to utilize, different methods in evaluating for higher order na determinants, like n greater than 4. Meanwhile, let's solve this one. Okay, number 3, evaluate. And D equals, this is a 3 by 3 or order 3. Now applying what we did or what I've shown you about earlier. So pwede natin extend ito. So we rewrite the first 2 columns. We have 6, -2, 1 in yung first column, and then the second column is 5, 3, 4. And then, okay, multiply natin yung elements na nasa main diagonal. We start from here. So 6 times 3 times 3, positive lang yan. So this is that term na nabanggit ko. And then 5 times 1 times 1, yun yung ating second term. And then, again, positive pa rin yung sign. Lastly, 0 times -2 times 4. So this is the term I mentioned. Plus ulit. And then, yung pataas, parang opposite ng diagonal niyan, we are going to use a negative sign. Ayan. So 1 times 3 times 0, ayan, negative yung sign natin. 4 times 1 times 6. So the sign here is negative as well. And then lastly, 3 times -2 times 5. Ayan. Negative din yung sign. Mamaya papakita ko sa inyo, di ba, kung ilan yung number of terms na makita mo dun sa mismong determinant natin if kung ganitong order ng determinant yung given. For example, pag sinabing order 2 or second order or third order. So, para mas madaling ma-verify nyo kung tama ba yung number of terms na meron dun sa determinant. So in this case, in 3 by 3, ayan, so 3 by 3 or 3 squared, n squared yun, di ba? So we actually have 6 terms. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. 6 times 3 times 3 is 54. 5 times 1 times 1 is 5. 0 times these elements, 0. And may 0 dito. So 0 din tong term na to. 4 times 6 is 24. 5 times 2 is 10. Times 3 is 30. So negative times negative, positive. Now, we add 54 plus 559. And then plus 30, and then subtract 24. So we have 65 as our answer. Okay. Now let's go to problem number 4. Ayan. So the same idea, since 3 by 3 lang din to. So in this case, given tayo ng mga letters. Okay. So our variables. So b squared plus c squared. So these letters, as long as merong given conditions, we can actually determine, or kung equation man yan later, so we can be able to determine these values. So the same idea lang, just start explaining this. So b squared times c squared. Yan, itong sa principal diagonal natin yun yung first term. Since 3 by 3, so there are 6 terms. 1, 2, 3. Okay, wait. It should be 6 terms. Yan. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Tama. Okay, so yung first 3 terms, positive. Yung sign, yung last 3 terms, negative. Okay, so you can recheck the solution using your module. So yun lang yung idea para ma-evaluate natin yung determinant. Now let's try. Okay, ito the same idea lang din. Actually may kulang dito. So it should be equal to, and since you are to find for the value of x is actually equal to 48. Okay, so umpisahan ko lang. Find all the values of x which satisfy the equation. So 3 by 3 or order 3 yung given natin na determinant. Now, syempre yung nasa left side ng equation natin will be evaluating this determinant, and then on the right side of the equation will be itong 48. Okay, so yan. Multiply natin tong elements na to na nasa principal diagonal. So x times 2 minus x times negative x. Ito na yung term na yan. And plus, yan, 3 plus x times 5. Saan yung next na element? Ito yun, yung 2. Or para di ka malito, you extend. So you put the first 2 columns here. So basta ganun lang yung ikot natin. Yan, baka malito kayo. So tanggalin ko na lang. Okay, and the third term will be negative 10 times, ayan, itong dalawang elements ito. So 1 minus x times 4 plus x. And for the last 3 terms, pataas naman. So 2 times 2 minus x times negative 10, ayan, minus yung sign, ito yun. 4 plus x times 5, ito yun. Saan yung next element? Yan, times x here. And lastly, so negative x, so yeah, negative x here times what? 1 minus x times 3 plus x. Again, the sign is negative. Ayan, so solve muna natin yung bawat term. So, ayan, evaluating. And then combining like terms. That's the idea here. Sa first term, magkakaroon tayo dyan ng x cubed. Actually, sa second term, x lang din. Sa third term, this will be an x squared. Okay, so kapag naayos na ninyo to, can be able to combine like terms and yan, makancel mo yung mga terms na, or you can actually simplify. Okay, burahin ko na lang to. Okay, so there are actually 2 values of x. Yan, 3 and negative 6. And so you know naman how to evaluate this. And arrange nyo lang according to yan, similar terms. Okay. And then factor later. Okay, the same idea here, pero ang tawag sa determinant ito is Vandermonde determinant. Okay, so basically, you can be able to determine, ito nag-factoring by grouping lang yan dito. So proceed tayo sa itong theorems of determinants. Yan, very quickly lang. I know that it's gabi na. Yung iba, papahinga na. Anyway, so doon sa mga hindi sa nanonood, I hope you're doing great. And so the number, first, natin yung theorem, the number of terms in the expansion of determinant of order n is determined by, n factorial. So katulad ng kanina, di ba? Kung order 2, pag sinabing order 2, yung involved na matrix is 2 by 2, di ba? So yung determinant natin is 2 by 2. So yung number of terms will be 2 factorial, and 2 factorial is 2 times 1, or basically dalawang terms. Diba yung kanina if naalala ninyo? Diba? So A, B, C, D. Ayan, determinant, diba? So A times D, ayan, minus C times B. So dalawang terms. Okay? Pag order 3 or 3 by 3, you have 3 factorial. as the number of terms. So 3 factorial is 3 times 2 or 6. So tama yung nabanggit ko kanina. Kung 4, kung order 4, 4 factorial. Kung 5, 5 factorial, and so on. Let's proceed to number 2. Okay, so sa number 2 naman, if the corresponding rows and columns of a determinant are interchanged, its value is unchanged. So hindi magbabago yung value ni determinant kahit na i-interchange mo natin yung rows and columns. Okay, just like this. Yung subscripts, diba? A11, yung element na nasa first row, column 1. So basically here, equal yung value ni determinant doon sa if we interchange itong first ayan. Actually, ang ginawa dito is transpose, no? Ayan, tama. So yung row 1 naging column 1. Yung row 2 naging column 2. Yung row 3 naging column 3. So kapag in-evaluate natin itong determinant, they will be the same. Okay, pakitandaan. Number 3, if any two columns or rows of a determinant are interchanged, the sign of the determinant is changed. Ayan. So if any two columns or two rows of a determinant are interchanged, yung sign ay magbabago. Okay, so let's try to look at this one. So A11, ayan, A21, A31. So what we did here is the first column is interchanged with the second column. Ayan, first and second. Okay, so ito na yung first. Tama ba? Yan, this is the, okay, nag-interchange sila. And take a look at the lower part. Okay, here, the first row is interchanged with the third row. First row, and third row. So pinagpalit sila. Okay. Ganun lang yun. Pag may tanong kayo, ayan, just comment down below. And if all elements in any column or row of a determinant are 0, its value is 0. And so katulad nito, yung nasa third row, lahat ng elements nandito is 0. So definitely, the value of the determinant is 0. Basta, if any elements, or if any column or row, ayan, lahat 0 yung value niyan. So ibig sabihin yung value ng determinant is 0. Number 5, if any two columns or rows of a determinant have their corresponding elements identical, ito naman, pagtandaan. Papansin mo, di ba, okay, pareho pala sila ng value. Or, ganito pala yung value niyan dahil sa merong proportion doon. Identical or proportion. So kapag mangyari, di ba, any two columns or rows of a determinant have identical or proportion or corresponding elements nila, identical or proportion, the value is 0. So just like this. So 5, 1, 4, 1, 2, 3, 5, 1, 4. As you can see, yung row 1 na elements is identical doon sa elements na nasa row 3. So ibig sabihin, the value is 0. Itong second naman natin na determinant, yung first, yung elements na nasa first column, and then yung elements na nasa second column, actually they're proportional, no? Kasi common factor nitong second column natin is 3. Yan, if you divide the entire column 2 by 3, so magiging 1, 2, 3. So dahil dyan, dahil proportional, so 0 yung value ng determinant na to. Okay, and then lastly, if each element of a column or row in the determinant is multiplied by the same number k, yan, or constant, the value of the determinant is multiplied by k. So ganun lang yun. So pwede mong wag mo nang i-distribute yung k na to sa bawat element. You can leave that later. You can multiply that after you have determined yung value ng determinant. Okay, so proceed tayo dun sa minor and cofactors. Okay, so yung minor and cofactor, actually the same lang sila, except that yung sign. Yung cofactor is a signed minor siya. Ayan, signed minor. So yung subscripts, wait lang, baguhin natin yung subscript kasi dapat I, J, ito. Yeah, it should be IJ. Ganun din dito. Yung I na subscript para dun sa row. And then yung J for the column. Ano pa ba? Ito. Yan. Kapag small letter, yan, signifies for the element. And then we use capital letter. Yan. For the cofactor. Yung A, IJ na to is cofactor. Yung M naman gagamitin natin for the minor. Okay, paano ba natin i-determine tong minor na to? For example, dito, M21. Kuha ko ng ballpen. Do. Anong nangyari? Close. Yan, okay. Ayos na. Okay, ito, M21 minor. Ayan, subscript is 21. Ibig sabihin, anong element na involved na to? Nasa second row, first column. So, ito yon. So, basically, ang gagawin lang natin is we delete the entire row, yung elements na nandun sa row na yan, and then elements na nasa column na to. And then yung remaining na elements, yun yung minor. So, as you can see here, A12, A13, A32, and A33. Ito yung minor ng ating, or this is M21. Yan, pag sabing M13, burahin ko muna to. Ayan, pag M13, anong involved na element dito? Yung nasa first row. So, ibig sabihin, burahin natin yung entire first row. And then, third column. Okay, ano yung natirang elements? Yun yung kanyang minor. So, A21, A22, ito yun. A31, A32. Okay, so ito na yung minor. Okay, I hope it's clear. Now, sa cofactor naman, so a cofactor is a signed minor. Tandaan na, cofactor of the element Aij in any determinant of order M is that signed minor determinant. So basically, paano natin ma-determine yung sign? So i-add lang natin yung subscripts. Okay, so -1 raised to the sum of the subscripts. So katulad nito. Baguhin ko lang itong subscript kasi dapat I. Okay. Ayan, so -1 raised to the sum of the subscripts. Yun yung magiging sign ng ating minor. So for example, okay, here, A sub 21 or 21. So this is a signed minor or cofactor ang tinutukoy dito. So if we add the subscript, so 2 plus 1, you have an odd number. So -1 raised to an odd number is negative. Kaya yung sign mo dito is negative. And saan ba yung, ano ba yung ating cofactor dyan? So i-delete lang natin yung entire row 2 and ayan, row 2. Wait lang, hindi ko makita. Row 2 and row 1. So you have these elements. Ayan, A12, A13, A32, and A33. So yung difference lang nila, ng minor and cofactor is yung sign. Okay? Ayan, now for A13 naman, so yung sign is basically, so i-add mo lang yung subscripts. Tapos yun yung magiging power ni -1. So -1 raised to 4 is positive. That's why you have yung value ng cofactor mo is the same to that value of the minor. Okay, now let's proceed to expansion of determinant by minors. Okay, so the value of the determinant is the algebraic sum of the products obtained by multiplying each element of a column or row by its cofactor. So basically, ang term dito is evaluating determinants by cofactor expansion. Okay, so we are given here, example muna. So determinant in the elements 3 by 3 or order 3 ito. Now we expand the given determinant about the second column. So yung elements na nasa second column yung gagamitin natin. Second column nasaan yan? Kuha ako ng ballpen. Ito yun, di ba? So involve itong elements na to. So you have, pag in-expand natin using cofactor expansion. So element na A12, A22, and A32. Ano tong A na to? This is a cofactor or a signed minor. So yung sign dito, pag pinag-add lang natin, you will have negative 1 raised to 3. So ayan, itong A22 naman is a cofactor. A32 naman is capital letter. So this is a cofactor. Okay, so expand lang natin. So itong element na to na involved na nasa column 2 or second column, A12 times -1 raised to 1 plus 2. Add mo lang yung subscripts na to. And then yung minor na involved. So basically, ano yung minor na to? 1, 2. Ano ulit yung 1, 2? Lang burahin ko muna to. So 1, 2, row 1. And then column 2. Ano yung mga elements involved? A21, A23, ito yun. A31, A33. And for the second term, yan, A22 na element, andito siya. -1 raised to, yung subscript, add lang yung subscript, so 4. And then yung minor mo. So that will be 2, 2. So burahin ko ulit to. 2, 2. So second row, second column, ano yung mga elements involved? A11, A13. A11, A13. A31, A33. Okay, and for the last term, itong element na involved. So pwede kong pumili ko kung anong row, anong column, or, yan, nabanggit ka dito, di ba? Obtained by multiplying each element of a column or row by its cofactor or signed minor. So ganun lang pag nag-evaluate tayo using cofactor expansion. And it should be noted that in using cofactor expansion, a sign convention, ito pwedeng gamitin na itong sign convention, you start from plus. Kasi, di ba, itong element na nandito is A11, di ba? So, pag pinag-add natin yung subscripts, 2. So, -1 raised to 2 is plus yung sign. So, plus, minus, plus, minus. Itong element na nandito, kapag, yan, di ba, ang involved na element dito is A12. Right? So, add yung power. So, -1 raised to and add power, negative pa rin yung sign. Ito, positive. Ito, negative. So, ito yung sign convention natin for the cofactor expansion. Yan, yun lang. Kabasaduhin nyo. Okay, let's try to evaluate this determinant. Yan, 3 by 3 or order 3 using cofactor expansion. Now, in our example here, we have chosen first row, yung elements na nasa first row. Ibig sabihin kasama na siya sa, ayan, mas maganda na yung piliin mo yung may 0 na kaagad para tanggal na yung term na yan at mapadali na tayo. Ayan, kaya pinili natin yung first row kasi may 0 siya dun. Kasi nga, di ba, yung multiply natin yan sa mismong cofactor. Yun yung idea. Okay? Move ko pa ng konti sa taas. Okay, so using the elements na nasa first row. So meron tayong 4, ayan, 0, and then 5. Kasama siya. And then ano tong kasama nito? Yan yung cofactor. Tandaan natin ha. So, ano ba yung involved dito since ito ay nasa first row, first column. So, plus yung sign. Ayan, burahin natin yung first row tsaka first column. Anong mga elements na natira? 2, 3, 1, 2. Ayan, 2, 3, 1, 2. For the second term naman, ito ay column 2. Diba? Column 2. Wait lang. And then first row. So, anong mga elements involved dito? Negative 1, 3. Negative 1, 3. 3, 2. Ayan, I hope nakita nyo yan. And then, since located siya dun sa, yung subscript niya is 1, 2. So, negative yung sign. Right? Or tandaan nyo lang yung sign convention kanina. So, plus, minus, plus. Ganun lang yun. And then, for the last element here, burahin yung row 1 and then column 3, ang elements na involved para sa cofactor mo is negative 1, 2, 3, 1. So pagdating dito, since naka 2 by 2 na siya, naka second order na siya, mas madali mo na siyang ma-evaluate. So, ganito lang yun. So 2 times 2 is 4 minus 1 times 3. Ganun lang yun. And anong nangyari sa 4 na to? So basically, yung 4 is i-multiply natin sa entire, wait lang, parang, ayan, basta yung 4 dito, multiply natin yan sa difference na to. Okay, 0. So tanggalan natin tong term na to actually. Yeah, ito. Ganun, tanggal na to. So this one, negative 1 times 1 is negative 1. And then minus 3 times 2. So andun yung 5. Check natin kung tama. So 4 minus 3 is 1. 1 times 4 is 4. And here you have negative 1 minus 6 is what? Negative 1 to lang. Minus 6 is 7. So negative 7 times 5, so negative 35. Kaya tamang-tama na negative 31 yung sagot natin. Okay, this is how we do evaluating determinants using cofactor expansion. And cofactor is a signed minor. Okay, burahin ko ulit. Let's proceed to the... Yan, pag check natin, ayan, using a different naman na column. So in this case, we utilize second column. Bakit second column? Kasi may presence ni 0. Maganda kasi pag may 0 na para matanggalan natin yung term na yun. Katulad nito, so negative yung sign. So negative, positive, negative, diba? If you remember, yung sign convention natin, plus, minus, plus. So plus, anong kasunod? Minus, plus, plus, minus, minus, plus. Second column, so ito yung sign. Negative, positive. Ito, positive. Dapat merong ano yan, parenthesis yan dyan. Tapos, negative ulit. So here, ayan, negative. Ayan. So, inayos ko na lang yung module. So, pag check natin, they are actually the same. Kahit saang elements man, kahit saang row or column ka pipili. So, it will give you the same value if you utilize cofactor expansion. And kapag hindi naman natin gamitin yung cofactor expansion, it will lead us to the same answer. Kasi nga, di ba, cofactor expansion is one method din na pwedeng gamitin to evaluate the determinant. Ayan. So, tulad nito, it should be negative 31. Yeah. Kasi, ayan, 13, 16, tama. Okay, ito naman, applicable din siya. Mas maganda siya sa Pag mataas na yung order natin. So 4 by 4. So in this case, wala kang 0 dyan. So pili ka na lang kung saang row or column gagamitin mo para ma-expand. So by expanding about the 4th row, so ito yung mga values ng elements na ating consider. So 3, 4, 5, 2. Ayan, 3, 4, 5, 2. So tandaan, yung sign. Okay, sign convention tayo. Plus, minus kasi 4 by 4. So plus, minus, kaya negative yung sign dito. Ayan. Kasi ito nga, ayan, minus. Continue natin. Ayan, so minus, plus. Ito yung ating row 4. Minus ulit. And then, wait lang. 2. So dapat plus 2 yan dito. Minus, plus, minus. Okay, so that is how you do cofactor expansion. Now let's check sa mababang part. Okay. Ayan. Same idea lang din to. Yan, evaluation of determinant by the pivotal element method. So I think you have heard about this term pivotal. So you are going to evaluate a determinant by following these steps. So if the given determinant of order n has an element equal to 1 or unity, and choose this particular element as pivotal element. Just like what we did sa matrices, di ba? We use yung 1 as our pivot. So yun yung gamitin natin na pivot natin, yung unity or 1. Otherwise, choose some convenient element, reduce this to unity, like what we did dun sa nag-normalize tayo, di ba, sa matrices para maging 1 siya. And by dividing, dapat ito. Lang ayusin lang natin. Dividing. Either the ith row or the jth column. Ayan, and then balancing by multiplying determinant also by aij. Then cross out the row and column through that element. And then from each element of the resulting determinant of order n minus 1, diba yung sa cofactor and minor natin, diba? By crossing out the row and column. And subtract the product of the elements in which the row and column, ayan, kung saan located to, aij, are met by the row and column containing that element. Then the value of the given determinant is -1 raised to I plus j times the value of the new determinant. So let's have this one. Yan, 3 by 3 using the pivotal element. Now, sabi nga kanina, if you're choosing for the pivot, 1 lagi yung pipiliin natin. Or ano yung mas convenient and then put it, gawin mong, or kung, yan, or yung pinaka-basic na mismong element na nandun. So here, considering the -1 in the second row, actually dapat hindi -1 yan, it's +1. Kasi ito lang yung second row, no? +1 siya. And second column as pivotal element. So this would be our, yun yung unity na value. Lang. Yun yung ating pivot. Okay, nasaan siya located? Nasa second row, second column. Now, meron tayong sign, di ba? -1 raised to yung sum ng subscript, so 2 plus 2. So, positive na yung sign dyan. And then, what we will do is, we cross out itong mga elements na nasa, and so basically 2, I get the difference eh. Pag na-cross out natin to, and then yung nasa row 2 and column 2, so you have 2, 3, -4, tsaka 9. Wait lang, parang magulo itong ano natin. O tama nga, subtract the product of the elements in which the row and column. Yun na. Okay, so this will be ano yung products, di ba? Takpan mo lang to. Part na to. Kasi ito yung pivot natin, right? So start tayo dito. 2 minus elements involved, no? So 2, 3, -4, and 9. So this will be 2 times lang. Okay, tama. Okay, yung difference. So yung next naman is 3 minus 3 times 5 for that entire row 2. And then 9 minus -1 times 5. Yung product pala nila. Tama. So ito 0 times 3. So 2 minus 3 times 0, -4 minus -1 times 0. Ayan, so. And then itong element na to, 3 minus 3 times 5, and then 9 minus the product nito, -1 times 5. And then you have a 2 by 2. So simplify natin to. You have 2 minus 0 is 2. -4 minus 0 is -4. 3 minus 15 is -12. 9 plus 5 is 14. And then, ayan, 2 times 14 minus the product of -14 times -12. Yung sign natin will be positive. So this is now our determinant. So 28 minus 48 is -20. Now, if we check using, without using the expansion or cofactor expansion or yung itong pivotal elements, so 2 times 1 times 9, and 3 times 5, try to evaluate, dapat -20 din yung result. Okay, so yun yung idea. So parang combination na siya ng cofactor expansion and yung pivotal element na method. Okay, so in this case, ayan, so pag pumili tayo ng pivot, unity or 1 yung pipiliin natin. So in this case, we can utilize this element na nasa row 1, column 1 as our pivot. So nasa row 1 siya. And ano ba yung sign nito? So it will be positive. Ayan, -1 raised to 1 plus 1. Okay, so there will be, pag binuran natin to, lahat ng elements na to, so you will have a 3 by 3. O yun yung n minus 1 since for order 4 ito. So n is 4, so 4 minus 1 is 3. So 3 by 3. So these are the elements that involve 0, -2. Ayan. Ibaba ko to para makita yung. Ayan. Okay. Ito yung pivot natin. So cross out mo itong mga elements na to. So ito na yung ating 3 by 3 na involved. So 0, -2, -4. And then for the second column, you have 1, 0, 1. third column, 5, 3, 6. Now, subtract natin siya, 'di ba? Since ito yung pivot natin, ayan, 0. Saan mo siya i-subtract? Dun sa product ni, bahin ko na yung kulay. Ayan, 3 times 2. Ito yun. And then how about 4, negative 2? Ayan, 1 times 2. Negative 2. Ayan, 1 times 2. Subtract mo doon. And then negative 4, negative 2 times, negative 2 times 2. Ganun lang yun. Yun yung pairing. Okay. Clear ulit. Okay, pagdating dito, di ba ito na yung ating 3 by 3. So sa second column naman, you have 1. Subtract mo siya saan? 1. Subtract mo siya sa 3. First column times negative 1 yung katapat nito. And then 0. Yan, 1 times negative 1. And then for the last element 1, negative 2 times 1. Okay. Purahin ko ulit to. Okay, and for this, sa ating 5, tandaan ito yung pivot natin. I-subtract natin itong 5 dun sa product ni 2 and 3. Yan yung katapat niya kung saan siya located. And then ito naman, yung 3, i-subtract natin siya sa 2 times 1. Ito yun. And then for 6, i-subtract natin siya dun sa product na 2 times negative 2. Ito yun. So that is how you do pivotal element. So pag nagawa na yung subtraction, you will have a 3 by 3 or order 3. And then, pwede ka ulit mag-pivotal element gamit ang pivot na to, or pwede mo nang erekta na i-evaluate yung determinant mo. Or pwedeng cofactor expansion. So, yun lang. May mga tanong ba kayo? So, yan, ito ang ginamit lang natin dito is yung rektang pag-multiply or sum of the products and then get the difference of, ayan, ito, positive, negative. Okay, so that's all. Let's browse pa yung nasa baba. So inverse of a matrix using adjoint matrix. So ito naman is other way of finding for the inverse of a matrix gamit ka ng adjoint. So basically, ang formula natin is adjoint of that given matrix over the determinant. And as you can see, bar yung ginamit dito. Okay, so we have the following steps. Find the determinant of the given matrix A. Okay, importante na makuha mo yung determinant kasi pag dito, 0 yung value niya. Ibig sabihin, singular yung mismong matrix na yun. And otherwise, kapag may value siya, yan, invertible yung matrix natin or non-singular siya. Yan, kasi di-divide mo yung mismong adjoint mo dun sa mismong value ng determinant. Kung 0 yan, kaya wala siyang inverse yung mismong matrix mo. Okay, second, if determinant is 0, yan, wala siyang inverse. Number 2, form the transposed matrix. So, alam niyo naman yung transpose is by interchanging the rows and columns. And then replace each element of transpose by its corresponding cofactor. And then the resulting matrix is called the adjoint matrix. So, ganun pala yun. Yung mismong transpose, if you replace each element by the corresponding cofactor, you call it the adjoint of the matrix. And then divide each element by the adjoint matrix by the determinant of A, and then the result is the inverse. Okay, ganun lang yung formula natin. So, adjoint of the matrix A divided by the determinant. Tandaan, scalar value ito. So, pag 2 by 2, madali lang. Ayan, so, yung sign convention lang, yung sundan lang natin kasi ito 2 by 2 na to, ito na yung pinaka basic, kumbaga, na size ni matrix. Okay, maliwanag? So, find the inverse of A, 2, 3, 2, 2. And using the adjoint matrix. So, firstly is, ito, if you're familiar with this, na kuha na natin to sa ating topic na matrices, di ba? Meron tong inverse. So, check natin ulit, dapat may value yung ating determinant other than 0. Kasi kung 0 yan, ibig sabihin, singular yung ating matrix at wala siyang inverse. So here, 2 times 2 minus 2 times 3. So negative 2 yung determinant. So yan, standby ka lang dyan. First, yan, so makukuha natin yung inverse later. Then our next step is to determine the adjoint. So firstly is to get the transpose of this given matrix. Paano yung transpose? Interchange mo lang yung rows and, wait lang, ako ng ballpen. Interchange the rows and columns. So this row 1 will be, ayan, transpose natin, di ba? 2, 3, 2, 2. Hindi pa to yung transpose niya. Ito pa lang yung matrix. So, A. Lang, tama ba? Transpose. So, it should be, ayan, yung row magiging column. So, 2, 3, 2, 2. Yan yung transpose ng matrix natin. And then, okay. Check ko muna kung tama yung given na nasulat. Tama naman. Okay, from the matrix A transpose. Tama. So, 2, 3, 2, 2. And then, replace each element of transpose by its corresponding cofactor. Okay, so babaguhin lang natin yung sign. Adjoint. So itong element na to, 2, 1. Divide by negative 2. Kaya ganun. Okay, sige. So yung adjoint natin will be, di ba, adjoint is signed minor. Yung adjoint natin will be achieved by replacing the elements of the transpose by its cofactor. So the adjoint of matrix A is, yan, tama naman to. So if this is the element na involved, ayan, so we have positive 2. Right? Burahin natin to. So yung sign is positive. So 2. Gets? Okay, bura. Next naman na element, yung nasa row 2. So ito yun. Ano yung sign dito? Negative. So bura ng sign, negative 3. Okay? So negative 3. Next naman na element na nasa row 2, column 2. Ito yun. So burahin to. Ano yung sign? Plus minus. So negative 2 ito. Okay, and then for the last term, itong element na to, okay, burahin natin to. Ano yung sign dito? Positive, di ba? So plus 2 siya. Okay, now ito na yung ating adjoint. Para makuha yung inverse, so basically, yung value ni adjoint, divide lang natin dun sa determinant. So 2, negative 3, negative 2, 2. Ayan, so negative 2. So as it's scalar to, no? Or negative 1/2. Multiply mo in each element. So this will become 2 divided by negative 2 is negative 1. Negative 3 divided by negative 2 is positive 3/2. Ayan, negative 2 divided by negative 2 is 1. 2 divided by negative 2 is negative 1. Okay, so yan na yung kanyang inverse. Okay, baka malito pa kayo dun sa mismong cofactor, ha? Okay, punta tayo dun sa next example. Ito, 3 by 3. So find the inverse of the matrix using adjoint matrix. So tandaan yung formula ng inverse using adjoint. So adjoint of the matrix divided by the determinant. So una muna is kunin natin yung determinant. 1 times 3 times 2, ito yung first term, plus 2 times 1 times 1, ito yun. 2 times 1 times 3, ito yun. Minus 1 times 3 times 2, minus 3 times 1 times 1, ito yun. Minus 2 times 2 times 1. Okay, so we have the value determinant 1 dahil hindi siya 0, meron inverse yung ating given na matrix. Okay, let's proceed. So pagdating doon sa adjoint, sabi natin, di ba, kunin natin yung transpose ng matrix. Okay, so correction lang doon sa module, baka malito kayo. Itong part na to kanina sinulat ko, hindi siya yung kanyang, hindi pa to yung transpose actually. So babaguhin ko lang 2, 3, 2, 2. Napakita ko naman na kanina. Okay, now here, so 1, 2, 2, yun yung magiging first column. 1, 3, 1, yun yung magiging second column. 1, 3, 2, yun yung magiging third column. Okay, so nakaayos na siya. And then the next part will be yung elements na nasa loob ng transpose, gagawin nating cofactor. Okay, so ayan, yung sign convention, huwag kalimutan para sa cofactor. Plus, minus, plus. Kasi 3 by 3 siya. Minus, plus. Para hindi mo na iisipin yung mismong subscripts. Ayan, minus, plus, minus, minus, plus. So, kaya yung sign natin dito, ayan, tama. Plus, minus, plus. Ayan, minus, plus, plus, plus. So, paano nakuha to, sir? Di ba cofactor nga, no? So, anong element na to? Ito yun. So, buburahin natin yung row 1, column 1. Okay? So, yun yung tatirang elements, yun yung kanyang minor or cofactor. 3, 3, 1, 2. Gets? Next. So, burahin ko ulit ito. Next na element. Itong nasa ayan, row 1, column 2. So, burahin yung row 1, burahin yung row 2. Anong natira? 2, 3. Ayan, ito na. 2, 2. Next element. Ayan. Basta nakuha nyo na to. Ito, di ba yung element na involve? No? Burahin yung row 1, ang column 3, anong natira? 2, 3, 2, 1. Okay? Tandaan lang yung sign convention para din na kayo mag-isip na, okay, yung subscript. Yan. Anyway, so balik tayo dito. Bura ulit. Element na nandito nasa row 2, column 1. So ano yung ating minor or cofactor? 1, 1, 1, 2. Okay, ganun lang yun. Bura ulit. Itong element na nasa gitna, row 2, column 2. What are the elements? 1, 1. Ito yun, 1, 1, 2, 2. Okay, ganun lang yun. Ito naman, so burahin to. So 1, 1, 2, 1. Check. Okay, so na-check na natin. So, solve natin yung value nito since naka-bar siya. Ibig sabihin scalar value. 3 times 2, 6, 1 times 3. Yung sinasabi na difference actually. 1 times 3. Ito na yun. 2 times 2, 4, minus 2 times 3. Yan, 2 times 1, 2, minus 2 times 3. Okay, 3 by 3 na to. So 6 minus 3 is 2. 6 minus 3 is 3. 4 minus 6 is negative. 2 times negative is positive. Okay. Ayun, pag nakuha na yung value ni adjoint, ayan, i-divide lang natin dun sa mismong value ni determinant. Since 1 yung determinant, ito na rin mismo yung kanyang inverse. Okay, as you can see, if we move. Ayan. Okay, then positive 1 lang yung determinant mo. So, ito pa rin yung inverse mo, yung value ni adjoint. Okay? So, ganun lang yun. May tanong ba? Wala. Kramer's rule naman yung ginagamit natin para ma-determine natin yung mga values ng unknowns. Okay, I think alam niyo naman yung paano kunin. Okay. So, we'll continue next time. Medyo late na, magna-9 na. Para makapagpahinga pa kayo because some of you might be presenting tomorrow. So, thank you for watching. Shout out.